The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Brecken Farms, Stonewall Stud, IRT, it's your horse and our passion, Australasian Wide Garrard's Horse and Hound, Ricciero Racing Stables, Lincoln Farms, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge Raceway, Ashburton Trotting Club, Addington Raceway and Harness Racing New Zealand.
Red lights racing, the race by Grins is underway. Self-assured, the race favourite, back second last, but Mark says let's go, let's get into the race by Grins now. It's self-assured, Majestic Cruiser down the outside, Spankham on the passing lane. It's self-assured though, self-assured, and is assertive fast against the race by Grins. This equine powerhouse to beat Majestic Cruiser and throw it over Spankham.
It's box seat time again, yes, off the back of the historic race by Grins. Michael Guerin, what a night it was at Cambridge Raceway. The buzz on track, once the horses went onto the track, was quite remarkable, and it continued right through till they turned for home.
Yeah, hi Greg, big hi to everybody watching around Australasia. It's great to have your company, and it was fun. And it should be fun, Greg. You know, harness racing for most people isn't a business, and it should be something we can enjoy. And to have this new thing come into our harness racing lives can only be good for us, Greg. So much enjoyment. The race lived up to the hype, which is incredibly difficult to do for an inaugural running of anything. And I think almost a perfect result. Our best ever horseman with our at current best horse beating an Australian, Greg, so they will come back. Lots of balance there. Great congratulations to David Branch, to the Waikato Bay Apleti Harness Racing Club, and lots to dissect, Greg, from not only last Thursday, but what lies ahead for the race by Grins night.
Yeah, we kick things off by having a look at the race, and as we roll the tape, here they were in behind the gate for the race by Grins. Michael, so much discussion pre-race about what would happen at the start. Of course, the Australians, drawn 1 and 2, Stylish Memphis, actually held her own quite nicely, thanks very much. Ultra Orlando was eventually going to get the lead, and Richard Terence May had a decent crack with Mark Dan. But this is where it got interesting. Ricky May ducks back to one off the fence, Spankham directly behind him, and Blair Orange elects to go back. Now that takes South Coast Arden all the way back and, importantly, behind Self Assured. Then Natalie Rasmussen pulls out, makes her way to the lead and makes Brent Mangos work extra hard.
Yeah, I think, Greg, all the horses we expected to be heading forward at some stage headed forward in slightly different orders. Mark Dan getting Ultra Orlando for speed at the start, but I think Ultra Orlando was also, they knew they had the feet underneath the wheel, so there was no issues with them being crossed. Spankham, they thought would be driven conservative, but once the early burn had left him in a pretty handy spot, Natalie went forward, very smart drive, because she knew Mango would come and therefore ended up trailing the right horse. So we ended up with a shuffling around, but then the form we thought would be in, South Coast Arden in front, Ultra Orlando around him, Mark Dan and Spankham. And here is the race-winning move. Mark Purdon moves, as he was always going to have to, on Self Assured, who missed that early burn. Krug follows him, and Majestic Cruiser for young Cameron Hart goes from back on the inside to 3 wide very shortly with cover following the right horse. From here, Greg, it was a picture we've seen so many times before. South Coast Arden in front, Self-Assured outside him. The last 2 times we've seen it, Self-Assured hasn't been able to get past, but this was the genius of Mark Purdon. He had worked and honed and readied this horse for this type of performance in this race. Was he going to be good enough to overcome that run for the 3rd time he tried it? Let's head to Aaron White, the voice of the race, to find out.
400 left to go. Hot and Treacherous and Stylist Memphis down the back in 28.3. South Coast Arden and Self-Assured. They go hoof to hoof. Top of the home straight here. Majestic Cruiser Spankin' for the passing lane. Homeward bound Self-Assured goes to South Coast Arden. Spankin' passing lane. Majestic Cruiser for the Aussies down the outside at Self-Assured. Majestic Cruiser down the outside. Spankin' on the passing lane. It's Self-Assured though. Self-Assured and is assertive best and against the race by Grins. This equine powerhouse to beat Majestic Cruiser and third over Spankin'. They were followed by South Coast Arden, Krug further back in the field, Stylish Memphis. They were followed Ultra Orlando, Hot and Treacherous, and the last will be Mark Dan.
Congratulations, Mark.
Yeah, it's very special, Greg, so yeah, very special moment.
When you've achieved what you have in the game and something new like this comes along, I know it excited you. It's going to excite you a bit more having won it.
Oh, absolutely, and you know, the atmosphere and hype around it, and here tonight, you know, it's a really special night, and it was a great race too, so yeah, a real special occasion.
Talk me through the run and how it unfolded for you, and did it unfold the way you thought it would?
Well, a couple of the moves made, yeah, you never do know, and the speed backed off, and that was the first to make the first move with Spankin', and then I think Brent Mangus took advantage of getting ahead of me at that early stage, and which was a good move, but then he had to work quite a bit to get to the front, so he backed the speed off probably with 1400 to run, and I thought just I'll get out and get outside him, and so I thought he'd be one of the ones to beat, but you know, around the last corner I felt that Self-Assured was travelling pretty strong.
Mark, it's been a terrific run with this horse, but he had to be so brave tonight, didn't he? Because Majestic Cruiser was really coming at you.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, and you know, the time he was entitled to be getting a little bit tired that last 100 metres, but he fought tenaciously and held him off.
All right, a $900,000 race, the inaugural running, you've won it. They can never take that away from you.
No, that's right. No, it's a really special night, Greg, and just absolutely thrilled, and thrilled with the staff that put in the hours and the work behind the scenes, particularly James Stevens, and affectionately known as Jimmy, but he does a lot of work with this horse and just loves him.
And what about the fact that Jean Feast was able to be in the country to watch her pride?
Yes, yeah, another special thing really, and Jean flew in last night, so she'll be here for a week or so, and following him next week in the Taylor Mile, but you know, special to have Jean here after being absent for so long.
Wow, what a race.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was, you know, very exciting to be part of it, and you know, I'm sure the crowd and everyone around Australasia would have been pretty excited watching it. There was plenty on in the race, and no, just happy our horse run really well.
Talk me through the run that you had, Cam, because you had to launch. They don't do that here at Cambridge. Come 4 wide and still keep coming up the straight.
Yeah, that's right. I was a little worried about being wide, but you know, there's enough tempo. I thought that I could make a little bit of ground, and just lucky enough, Krug sort of got me to at least the end of the back straight, and probably worked out well when I passed him. I could drop down to 3 wide, which helped a lot, not having to check him right around the corner. So worked out well that way, and you know, he just kept trying up the straight. He's an old boy horse, and you know, we come to know he just, every time he steps out for us, he just puts in his all, and no, he's just a great horse.
You want to come back for the race with Grins?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's just a great experience. There's been a lot of hype around Australasia with the race, and you know, it definitely lived up to expectations.
What an incredibly brave performance.
Oh, Greg, amazing fresh up, you know. I mean, I didn't sort of want to have to use him early or mid-race, but then when the speed slackened like it did, I really had to put him into it. I was handy enough. And I just probably had to use him that little bit too much. I found out just that last 50. But in saying that, though, to run that time, fresh up like he did and still hang on for third, great effort.
Blair, given his preparation, that was a pretty brave performance.
Yeah, real happy with that, Greg. He just couldn't quite get in early, and you know, we had to haul back to the back, and you know, he followed Self-Assured up when they weren't going much, and just thought I needed to be there when they did sprint, and to his credit, he's run a very credible fifth.
What he's been able to achieve in the last 12 months is going to put him in good stead going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what his run in the free-for-all on Cup Week, and again tonight against some of the better horses again, and he has proven that he's going to be be able to foot it with them in coming months.
Jack, it didn't pan out for you, but what an experience.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. Obviously, I've just been rapt to be able to be a part of this trip, and thanks to Barrett Holmes and Wayne Higgs for allowing me to do that. And things didn't pan out. She came out the gate better than I expected. I actually let Alta Orlando go because I thought he might have stayed there, but there was just so much pressure throughout the whole race, and ended up fall back on the pegs and looking for a run around the corner. But no discredit to her, she went good, and like you said, it's just been an awesome experience and something I'll never forget. Yeah, it's been awesome to have you here too, mate, and you've really added, as have the other Australians, to what's a great concept. I reckon you'd be keen to come back, wouldn't you? Yeah, that's right. Hopefully, Barrett Holmes, that's what I made mention, just find another one, if not her, and we'll do it all again next year. So it's something that obviously I'll be looking forward to and jump at that opportunity if it arises. What about the one piece, mate? You, Cam Hart, it was a thing back when Dexter started that trend, but yeah, I think you're liking it too, aren't you? Yeah, that's right. I think people used to laugh at Dexter about that, but not me. I think I wanted one myself, but yeah, it's sort of a thing in Australia and America now, and we race in our drivers' colours a lot now, so we don't have to chop and change, and it's custom fitted, so yeah, why not? So awesome to get those post-race comments, and a big thank you to Tara Hughes, who did a huge job for the Waikato Bay of Plenty Club, Michael, collating all of those interviews, both pre and post-race. But you could clearly see it meant a lot to Mark Purdon, the inaugural running, the fact that he had this horse in the absolute zone for this race. But also the comments there from the Australians, and our apologies, we didn't get Brent Mangos on the night because he finished with his horse and actually left before we got a chance to chat to him. But the Australian drivers and Jack Trainer there at the end talking about his one-piece suit and Dexter starting the trend, and all of their comment in the media added to the hype of the race, and you were right, it added so much to the entire build-up.
As I said, almost perfect, because you don't want a 30-1 chance winning and you doubt the form out of the race. This is a Triple Crown race now. There's the New Zealand Cup, the Auckland Cup. This has become one of our top 3 races. You can make the argument it's now our second biggest harness race. And a good horse won it, a horse who had won the other 2, so the form will stand up. Then you wanted the Australians to turn up and do a good job, Gregory, because in doing that they are more chance of returning, and they absolutely make the affair. Take the Australians out of last week, and no matter how much hype you have, it falls flat. So having Majestic Cruiser turn up and race so well means more Australians will come back next season. I thought Spankham very good, considering he'd only had the one start back. South Coast Arden worked pretty hard, but he had his chance. And Krug obviously 3 wide, which is not the place to be in harness racing these days. Very brave in 5th. But when you looked at them, Greg, you can make a really good case and a creditable case for almost all the horses involved. And to the slot holders, thank you. Thank you for being part of that journey with David Branch and the Waikato Bay of Plenty Harness Racing Club and Harness Racing New Zealand, who of course started this, because without them, Greg, this wouldn't have happened. And it just goes to show what saying yes, not saying yes to every stupid thing we come up with as an idea, but saying yes to things can achieve. And it's here to stay now, Greg, and I don't think anybody would have left there disappointed, even those who finished back in the field, even David Smith from Dunstan, whose horse Pembroke Playboy had to be scratched, Greg. He said to me, I want to come get a horse next year, a good horse to win the race. So we've got something really cool there. Self-assured, where does he stand? It reminds me of Christopher Vance, Greg. Yep. A horse of 30 years ago. Didn't do a lot wrong, occasionally missed away from a standing start. Beautiful mannered horse, not the world's toughest or fastest, but a good mixture of both. And a horse who was beautifully trained. Christopher Vance was magnificently trained by Barry Purdon and usually driven by Tony Herlihy, who ironically this week will end up on Self-Assured. And I think Self-Assured's a very similar type of horse. They verge on champion status. I'm not sure where Self-Assured will end up at the end of his career, but they can never take away from him, Greg, the first ever winner of the race by Grins and the first ever winner of a thing that didn't exist till last Thursday, New Zealand Open Class Pacings. Triple Crown. Yeah, incredible effort by him, almost $1.5 million in stakes, and
He's not finished, that is for sure. A great addition it was. The man who stood behind it right from the get-go, David Branch, I got a chance to have a chat to just after the last. Well, we knew it was a great concept, but that just about couldn't have worked out better.
No, it was unreal, wasn't it? It was so exciting, and yeah, just stoked that it's been and gone, and yeah, it was awesome.
What about the race itself, David? Because to be fair, someone said to me before, should this race be over a mile? If it was over a mile, we wouldn't have seen that many moves. It was almost the perfect storm, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the mile for Jules Day has its knockers too, doesn't it? 50-50 split, I think, when we surveyed on whether people think it should be a mile or not. For me, starting in front of the crowd was such a big thing, and that was probably my preference for Jules races. So being able to have 22, let them go in front of the crowd, and as you said, all those moves, and just made it so exciting.
All right, barrier draw meant that the best horse in the race, the way it panned out, drew the outside. That almost couldn't have worked out better, and he had to be the best horse in the race to win it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that just, as you said, everything's just sort of worked out so good from a getting people talking about it, from a entertainment, from the lead up, everything just perfect, and having SENZ as the slot holders, because they've been such a huge part of the coverage, as you know, and that was just huge, and a great result. Couldn't be happier.
All right, we've got 2 more years locked in already. You start thinking about that. The party atmosphere here is like being at a sevens tournament. These people are going to want to come back, and they're going to want more.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously our plan, go to $1 million and then increase the crowd capacity with no COVID restrictions. The ideal for us is sort of 5,000. I think we've probably got just under 2,000 tonight, so double it. My goal is shoulder to shoulder on the lawn. People absolutely packed out. So.
Well, congratulations to you, your board and the staff. I know they've worked extremely hard to make this happen, and it couldn't have worked out better.
No, for sure, and absolute team effort. Like it, I'm the one that chucks these ideas at the team, and they're the ones that have to make it happen. So credit to them as well.
Yeah, pretty hard to wipe the smile off that man's face. Michael Guerin, the challenge now is to progress, and already the talk is a trotters slot race could be part of the night, along with a series of other feature races, which I think everyone agrees the undercard needs to be lifted.
Yeah, well, the undercard didn't exist until about 6 weeks ago, Greg, so I can understand why it was weakish. I think next year the obvious thing is the trotting slot race. Now, let's not be disrespectful to the Group 1, which is the New Zealand Trotting Championships, which is the week before, but technically it could move back a week or forward a week. It's not going to change anybody's life if that race is a week earlier. I think everybody would be comfortable enough with that because we're changing so many things. A slot race for the trotters will be incredibly easy to get off the ground, and way easier than this race was, because already some of the slot holders in the pacing race have said, we want the trotters race. Greg, I think you could put them up at 30,000, 10 slots, 300k. If you can find another 100k to put on top of it, you've got the richest trotting race in Australasia at $400,000. Alongside that race, I would love to see a female drivers race that night, Greg, to bring some of the great, wonderful female talent we have from around this country and, of course, Australia together. And I don't see why the Waikato Guineas shouldn't be there. The Waikato Guineas doesn't get their cooters and the best horses anyway. Let's slide it in there. Let's make it for the next best bunch of horses. And being that it's only 3 weeks after the Derby, so some of those Derby contenders can start there. I think it falls together pretty quickly as a Karaka Million type night. On the trotters race, I think it's time. I think it's a logical step, Greg. It'll happen very quickly and very easily because at $30,000 per slot, if it was to be that, it's not an enormous amount of money compared with yearling sale prices. And we have this vintage crop of trotters at the moment. Maybe they're not all going to be around this time next year, but if you had Sunday Sun, Bolt for Brilliance, Cracker Hill, Five Wise Men, Muscle Mountain, Majestioso across from Australia, you put that there, Greg, it's a staggeringly good race. And then those horses can stay on and race at the carnival coming up at Auckland right through to the Rowe Cup. And some people would say, well, maybe they won't, but there's nothing in Australian trotting at the moment to not make them come. Left-handed, right-handed would suit them, gives them a mix of both type of racings, Greg. I think it's very quickly going to become the second biggest day in New Zealand harness racing. The New Zealand Trotting Cup will always be our Melbourne Cup. This can be our Everest. Yep. And they're two vastly different things, and they won't cannibalise each other in any way, shape or form. I think it's a total win so far. It won't always be a win, Greg. It'll rain one night. It'll be cold sometime. One night something will jump to the front at $1.50 and win, and it won't feel that spectacular. But hey, that's happened in the Everest too.
Yep.
So I think it's been fantastic. A lot of people have congratulated David. I want to congratulate a lot of other people, the Waikato Bay Plenty board for backing David, Harness Racing New Zealand for coming up with the idea. And now, Greg, it's behind all of us to get behind this and make it a bigger deal, because this is now something which is part of the national racing consciousness. That many galloping people have texted me this week and said, that was cool, I really liked that. And they'll want to go next year when it's going to be on a Friday night. And it's a Friday, Greg, which should be the Friday before the Saturday, the Te Araha Breeders, which is our last Group 1 galloping race. Let's make this something people want to go to. You know, let's give them reasons to go to Cambridge. Let's unite and get partnerships going with bars and restaurants to say to people, come to Cambridge, stay for 3 or 4 days, come see these wonderful things. And let's get Waikato or Cambridge, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, tourism involved. They should be paying part of this buck, Greg, because a lot of people are going to pay money to come to these events in their area. The growth could be enormous, but for a first ever attempt, I thought it was magnificent.
Yeah, you can add to that the Greyhound Derby that was run on the Thursday
sure.
afternoon. You could probably throw in a golf tournament. All of a sudden, you've got 4 or 5 days in that region that is well worth being part of. So, yeah, an awesome occasion, and looking forward to at least the next couple of years, because we know that they are locked in. Now, we'll just park the preview coming up for where those horses are all going, because overnight, Michael, we hear the sad passing of one J.S. Delgetti. Me old mate, as he referred to everybody, made an enormous contribution to the sport through training and driving. You'll mention some of his horses shortly, but also in the breeding barn, where he bought horses like Out to Win here, and Lantana Lodge became an enormous part of the breeding operations in the late 60s, 70s and 80s, and the wealth of knowledge that man had. I had him in harness racing royalty alongside the Roy Purdens and the Derek Joneses and the Don Nines and all of the great names in our sport. So condolences to the Delgetti family, and it is a wide family, but man, he made a huge contribution.
Sure did. He was 88 years old. I was talking to Cran this morning, and our condolences, of course, to Cran and to Blair and to all the grandkids, obviously, and everybody else who was touched by Jim. He got to live on the farm till he was 88, Greg, which is what he wanted. He was a land-based man, forged from a different type of metal than many people are these days. He was a hard man, and Cran said that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to live at his place until he passed away. He had been separated from Faye for 30 odd years, but they were still very good friends. So to Faye, our condolences as well. And yeah, I think everybody, when they hear Jim's name, smiles, Greg, because my old mate was just such a catch cry, and the old chats and all the knowledge you got when you spoke to Jim. You can see why Cran's such a good horse person, having that instilled in him, along with that work ethic. As Cran said to me this morning, he said, Dad was a great believer in making money with your hands first and your brain second. And he said, I've almost had to retrain my thought process around that, because that's the way people were in those days. So, yeah, he's one of the icons of the industry. Sad to have him passing away overnight, but through Cran, through Carter, through the rest of the family, Greg, it's a word which is overused, but the legacy of the Delgetti family and what Jim achieved in racing will live on. You mentioned Out to Win. Bachelor Hanover was champion stallion too. He had Bolton Bird and Melton Monarch, probably his 2 best horses. Bolton Bird, both won Northern Derbies, the brothers. Bolton Bird went on to win an Auckland Cup. Robert Dunn came through that system, and Robert Dunn's now our champion trainer. So many things there through the Happy Hazels and the Skews Me and all the horses they left that have made our racing industry richer. As always, did a chat with Jim. A chat with Jim was like a bit of a schooling, and you went away going,
Wasn't it?
God, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
but that still may be true. But yeah, to everybody involved, our condolences, Greg. And yes, Roy will be waiting in heaven with the whiskey poured. So the old boys will be having a bit of a tipple tonight, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he got the outstanding contribution to harness racing at the 2009 awards, and that was richly deserved. And yeah, I'm going to be a lot poorer for not having conversations with him about the game, and what he didn't know wasn't worth knowing. So, yep, we certainly salute one Jim Delgetti. Right, let's get into the preview of the Taylor Mile, now the open Taylor Mile that it is. We'll have a look at AG's White Sox winning the race for a start, Michael. We have to go back to 2018. This was a terrific performance by him from a similar barrier draw to he's got this week, 153.9. let it ride in front of him. Eamon Maguire storming home down the outside, and I just wanted to show you the best of this horse. He races really well right-handed. He'll have the services of John Dunn this week. Here's his most recent run with Ricky May in the bike, coming from last, and importantly out of this race, Cranbourne in front and Kango, who was the eventual winner, getting through on the inside, and the Superstars.
Well, what this shows you is 2 great races, 4 years apart, 2 passing lane winners. And that's the indication, that's the important note for this week. Yes, we saw Self Assured come parked last week, but that wasn't a mile. This is a mile. And Self Assured surely is going back for new driver Tony Herlihy. Tony ended up getting the reins because Mark got suspended last week for his drive in the race for the angle of the arm when encouraging Self Assured. So if we're putting Self Assured back in the field, and over a mile, these horses, Greg, probably 52, 51 and change if they want to around Alexandra Park. Well, it just goes to show you how hard it is to come from back in the field. The Taylor Mile has been the hardest race in New Zealand without doubt to win from back in the field. It always has been. Maybe Alert Motoring's one of the few horses to have ever achieved it. So I think Self Assured's massively up against it. I think he's opened around $2 with the TAB, which I think is incredibly short for what he's going to need to do, which is probably go back, maybe come forward in the middle stages. But if the wrong horse pulls in front of him, Greg, in a very hot field, gee, this is going to be a big ask. And last week was his grand final. So I think he can make a really strong case, I know, for a horse that you like heaps, and Spankum, heading forward. He won the race in 2019. And getting the lead, or at least getting on the marker pegs, and being incredibly hard to beat. I think this is a race Self Assured can win, Greg, but I think it's a really be careful race for Self Assured. What I am thrilled, Greg, about is that Mark Dan and Majestic Cruiser have stayed. We knew Mark Dan was staying. Majestic Cruiser staying has already proven the value of the race last week as an extender into these feature races coming up at Auckland.
Yeah, let's have a look at the market for you. You mentioned $2 there for Self Assured, $5.50. There's absolutely no chance that'll hold up for Spankum. I thought he'd start closer to $3. He's a massive winning chance. South Coast Arden was as short as $4 last week, $8.50 from the same barrier this week. And then you get to Mark Dan and Majestic Cruiser, who's a $5 chance, follows out AG's White Sox. I'll be tipping Spankum, as you know, Michael. What about for you?
Yeah, I'll tip Spankum on top. Self Assured can win. He's probably got more percentage chance of winning, but he shouldn't be an 18% chance of winning Spankum. So he's won the race before. He's won the New Zealand Free for All and the Miracle Mile leading. I see him leading. I'm not saying he's going to stay there, but I see him being against the marker pegs. Going to be a really good race. Great to have Cranbourne here. I think a lot of people in the north haven't seen much of Cranbourne, but there's enormous respect for him. And we've got a pretty cool sort of autumn coming up, Gregory, with these horses sticking around. Be fantastic to have Cameron Hart back at Alexandra Park. He was a pleasure to deal with last week, as was Jason Grimson leading up to the race with Majestic Cruiser. Not sure too on the second line's that sexier draw for him. Did speak to Jason last week about Alexandra Park and right-handed. He said, I've never tried the horse. He used to get on a knee, left-handed. I'd just be a little bit careful with Majestic Cruiser this week. Sure, he can win, but he's probably going to settle in the second half of the field, and that's going to make things difficult. Greg, talking about slot races and the race and the Taylor Mile, coming out in Australia on Wednesday, depending when you're watching this. You might be watching on YouTube, which is great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. You might be watching on Trackside on Thursday. Australia has announced their first race, which is going to be called the Eureka, which is a cool name. I like the name, actually. Sort of wish we'd thought of that, but never mind. Now, it's very, very different to the slot race in New Zealand. So it's for Australian bred horses only. Now, before you start panicking, that doesn't mean New Zealand trained horses can't race in it. For example, Smolder. Smolder was an Australian bred horse who came back to New Zealand. But you must be bred in Australia. Now, that's a huge difference, Greg, and it's for 3 and 4 year olds. So it starts on September the 2nd, 2023, so next year. For 3 and 4 year olds. I didn't see that coming. I'd heard the whispers, but it's going to be 2.1 million, so the richest harness race in the world. Now, this is a great thing, and some people watching this won't like it because it excludes New Zealand bred horses, but the Australian Racing Authorities, Greg, don't owe us anything. We're not putting any money into this. They can do whatever they want. And they have chosen to back their breeding industry, which struggles, and their sales industry, compared with ours. It's not as good, for obvious reasons. So they've decided to put that money there. So there'll be some people who don't like that part of the concept. They can do what they want. Basically, this is a $2.1 million race that didn't exist last week, and it exists now. So I'm cool with that, Greg. And if somebody wants to get an Australian bred horse and give it to Jim Delgetti or Mark Purdon or Steve Telfer, whoever, they can go back and win the thing. But it is vastly different, and I think most importantly, it won't affect in any way the New Zealand Cup, which it wasn't probably going to affect too much anyway, or our race. So these things both exist now. They didn't exist that long ago, and they won't cannibalise each other, Greg. And to be honest, it's September the 2nd. I don't see it cannibalising anything, to be honest. It's just good all around, even though, as I said, the conditions of it won't please some people, but it's nobody's job to please everybody, Greg.
No, absolutely it's not, and thanks for the update on that, Michael. Let's move on to the featured trot there at Alexandra Park on Friday night, and it does star, of course, Sunday Sun, who is our leading trotter and, in fact, horse of the year. This is him in front in the Fred Shaw, the New Zealand Trotting Championship, of course. Muscle Mountain getting off his back there and trying to run him down. Five Wise Men through on the inside, but he comes up $1.60 this week, Michael. Muscle Mountain $3.50 is drawn to his inside, and we know his enormous early speed. This will be an incredibly tactical race, I think, over the mile. It's the ATC Stewards Trotters Mile. It's a race that's been slotted in there as part of the Anzac Cup and, of course, ultimately the Rowe Cup, which runs alongside the Trillion Trust Auckland Cup this year as our last feature meeting before winter racing just really kicks in. But Sunday Sun's won 30 times, 7 of 15 at Alexandra Park. But when you see $1.60 come up for a horse drawn barrier 7, as I mentioned, $3.50 Muscle Mountain, $7.50 Five Wise Men, does it make you slightly nervous, Michael?
Well, I'm not nervous because I'm not going to back him at $1.60, Greg. I think it's a very easy race to read. It may not prove to be so, but I think it's pretty darn simple. I think Muscle Mountain will run to the lead and Sunday Sun will be outside him. I don't think it's the whole race. And then the question is, do they hand up on Muscle Mountain? And the answer absolutely should be no. So then you just take out of that, do you think Sunday Sun sits parked outside Muscle Mountain and beats him? I'm not taking $1.60 to find out, Greg. I think it's a two-horse race. I think Five Wise Men in there at about 13-14% of the market's largely irrelevant because I'll be stunned if he can beat the other two just yet. He'll beat them one day. So I'll back Muscle Mountain, Greg. The one thing I would say with Muscle Mountain is you might get more at start time on the tote because so much money comes for Sunday Sun, and some of the gallops punters will go, well, I know him, I'll just take him in a multi and chuck him in. But, this is very much buyer beware with Sunday Sun this week. We all know how good he is. We're not telling anybody something they don't know. But I'm not going to be backing him sitting parked unless, and I'll make my phone calls, Greg, and it'll be in the Herald and Harness Racing New Zealand on Friday morning, unless somebody says to me, well, no, we want to hand up. Right. In which case, the race changes, Greg, and Sunday Sun leads and he runs off into the wild blue yonder and he gets another win. But I don't think that would happen.
No, I don't think so either. Massive night there, 10-race program. Good to see at Alexandra Park on Friday night. We're about to go to our first break, but Jasanova continued a remarkable run for Luck Chin on the big night that the race by Grins was the feature. This was a $25,000 race, and here is Jasanova for Luck Chin. 150 winners he has trained. He's driven about 130 winners to boot. He got the Quinella here, Michael, and this was the feel-good story of the night for mine.
It was, because he is a Cambridge man through and through. His luck getting the Quinella on their biggest ever race night at Cambridge. It was just wonderful stuff. Obviously trained 3 winners in 24 hours the previous week, so by this stage he had trained winners in the last 4 or 5 races he had contested. One of the great people in harness racing, a gentleman through and through. And if I could have named anybody in Australasia to have won the race before the race, Greg, this is exactly the person I would have wanted to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to chat to him on the night. He's a marvel. He just loves his horses, and he is having one heck of a run at the moment. We're about to take a break here on Your Box Seat. When we come back, we've got to look back at Addington's feature night from last Saturday night, look at a couple of races coming up for there, and a whole lot more, including the return of our junior driver profile. Welcome back into Your Box Seat. Let's go south. It was last Thursday on the big harness day here in New Zealand. This was the Macca Lodge Kindergarten Stakes at Group 2 level. Don't Stop Dreaming had moved from about $1.60 into $1.25. He gets through on the inside here for Olivia Thornley, getting a group race success, and post-race I got a chance to chat to her.
Another All-Stars Kindergarten, that's 5 years straight, and Group 2 glory for Olivia Thornley.
Group race winning driver Olivia Thornley, can't wipe the smile off your face.
No, it was a massive thrill, and I was just so wrapped for the owners and Mark for getting me the drive, and I was just glad to repay the faith.
Don't Stop Dreaming come up with barrier 1. You had some decisions to make during the run, but he was just way too good.
Yeah, he's a very smart animal. He's been trialling good. He'd been unbeaten in all three, and when I got to passing lane, I just knew I had too much for all of them.
What about the opportunity to drive a $1.25 shot in a group race? What were the nerves like?
The nerves were more the fact that he was a really, really hot favourite. I have driven in a few group races, and you kind of just, you've got to treat it like any other race. It is worth more money and the status, but at the end of the day, you're still trying to do the best for the horse. So the main thing was just not getting beaten a $1.20 shot.
Look, he powered up the passing lane. OK Boomer was in front, but at no stage did it look like he was going to get beaten, and on picking the way he felt, that was the case too.
Yeah, none at all in any of the race. I never thought I was going to get beaten. He was just travelling so tightly, and as soon as got to the passing lane, he just hit another deer, and he did it very easy at the line.
Well, number 25 in your career, first at that level, but that's a fair reflection of what the All-Stars, Mark, Natalie, and now Hayden Cullen, of course, to put their faith in you for this race. That's a pretty big rubber stamp.
Yeah, it's very special. Like when I started out, I only had my trials licence 5 years ago with them, and now to repay them with a group win, I was just so happy to do it.
Don't Stop Dreaming. I don't think he's going to stop winning on that performance.
No, I don't think he's going to stop anytime soon either.
Yeah, 157.3. Really pleased for Olivia there. Michael, yes, she had a few advantages from that barrier, but we'd heard from Mark Purdon both on this show and on SENZ on a Sunday. Tune in with Michael and I at lunchtime that this was their best 2-year-old at this stage. A lot can change, but he's a powerful brute.
Yeah, good-looking horse. Where it all ends up, I have no idea, Greg, because I'm still trying to work out where the juvenile season goes. I don't really know when all the big races are, and that's something I suppose I'll have to work out, but I don't train them, so it doesn't matter too much what I think about all that. I really like Olivia. She's a responsible, happy young lady, and you know it helps when you're around owners. They want to have these people there who clearly care for the horses. She actually drives pretty well. It's easy, Greg, with the all-star drivers to go, well, are they any good because they're driving the best horses? But I haven't seen her drive many horses where I've gone, well, what were you thinking? And that's really important when you're on favourite horses. And the fact that Mark and Natalie back her suggests that she has a big future in the game. So she's a breath of fresh air, because sometimes, Greg, with those really big, serious horses, everything can get a bit serious. And this is a serious horse.
Yep, second horse was good, Da Vinci, OK Boomer, nothing wrong with that. And Nathan Williamson's horse, the Black Flash, wasn't bad either. Big night at Addington Raceway, the inaugural running of the Hydra Flow Country Cups final. Look at that big full field there. Plenty of early moves, in front All-American Lover, but it was the Falcon getting through on the inside for Jeff and James Dunn, and of course Gerard O'Reilly. Dashes through to beat the favourite, outstays them in the end, and I got a chance to chat with James Dunn and also those placed just in behind him.
And the Falcon beats All-American Lover. Third in Jimmy Yama and fourth across.
Yeah, well, voice might have gone a wee bit.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever yelled so hard in my life, yeah.
What about the build up to this race and how this horse has been placed? And once the race was over 2 miles, I reckon you and Jeff thought, this is our grand final.
Yeah, well, the way he went in the Derby, he sort of just keeps coming. He lacks a bit of speed, but he just keeps coming. And when we started the preparation, we weren't sure sort of if he was going to go open class sort of way or this sort of way. And he just sort of lacked a bit of strength to be that step better. But we're always very confident that he had a motor like this. Yeah.
What about during the run? Because you ended up 3 back on the fence, All-American Lover and Rough and Ready in front of you. How were the nerves?
I was very nervous because that's the spot we wanted, besides the trail, I suppose. He leads a lot, but he's actually probably better chasing. He chases really hard. When he leads, he sort of goofs around a bit and knocks off. We're going into the race, All-American Lover, obviously very hard to beat, probably the best, stayer on paper. But no, we were confident, and 3 fence, 2 miles, yeah.
Training alongside your dad, this is clearly the biggest race you've won. Might not be in stature, but certainly monetary.
No, it's an awesome race. Been thinking about it for a long time, especially because we don't have a really big team at the moment. We've got a lot of horses to come in, so he's sort of, and Ed Laver's gone out with an operation, so it's all been about him. So it's pretty special that he's won this year.
James, what do you do with him now?
It'll be up to Jeff and the owners, Bob and Jen. Either spell, he'll tell us though, he might be a bit jaded, or we could go to Auckland, but that'd be a stretch this season. Maybe a spell and try get ready for the New Zealand Cup or something like that.
You talked about the Sanfords. The late John Gould, who's a huge supporter of your father over a long period of time. Bred by Todd Anderson, Taffy Limited, and you've got some other progeny that they bred as well.
Yeah, so we bought when he was a 2-year-old, we actually bought the full sister. She was quite expensive, but she's a nice type. She's just taking a wee bit longer. And then this year we bought a Sweet Lou half for 20, which I thought was a steal of the sale. We couldn't believe it. We were going to go to 40 or 50. And she's actually broken and awesome, so she's probably the pick of our lot at the minute, so very exciting.
Congratulations to you and your dad, well done.
Thank you, cheers.
You'll be disappointed, but she went great.
Oh, Rap Greg, super run. It was a little bit probably not to script early, but like you say, that's what the race threw at us, and to her credit, she handled it, and it was a big step for her tonight, the season she's had, but just Rap the way she went. But like you say, take nothing away from the winner, he was too good for us on the night.
You did have to get past Rough and Ready, and if you hadn't have gone that hard, you might have been parked out. So it was one of those things that you just had to do.
Yeah, it was just a little bit tricky, obviously, trying to get in early. Sort of thought we were in early down the back the first time, and then glanced to my right and seen D Butcher go sailing past. So look, it just swayed things a wee bit, and there was a bit of cat and mouse heading into that first bend, and we probably lost that advantage after that wee skirmish. So we had to roll the dice and have a play for the front, but. She travelled well once she got there, but I knew off the turn she was tired, but she tried really hard right to the line.
Well, that's awesome for him.
Yeah, Rap, he's lucky I caught the start right and got a nice trip on the fence, and he showed that he can run on really nice, yeah.
Look, he can really follow speed, and when they're going 4 minutes, the markers is a great spot.
Oh, it's a perfect spot. It's really worked out well from tonight, so no, look, Rap with his run.
Look, he's a rating, I think, about a 55, so he's going to drop back into a pretty good grade. He's not going to be hard to find.
No, look, he should be, he could get in a nice race next start, so, look, he just got 9k there, and hopefully he can get another win next start maybe, or even some money, so, no, look, it's good.
Both the Falcon and All-American Lover, both New Zealand Bloodstock sales graduates, $95,000 they paid for the Falcon. He's certainly repaying them for that. I think he's up to almost $130,000. The other feature of the night, Michael, was Midnight Dash, and here's him winning back-to-back $40,000 features. Gets through on the inside in the Lone Star Sire Stakes Age Classic. Bob Butt had a night out. We'll hear from him shortly. Gold Chain looked the winner, but Midnight Dash was too good.
What a wonderful little horse he is. Just goes to show you how hard it is to race an open class at the moment, because he can come off 20 metres and win these. He's got a similar race in a couple of weeks where he's going to be off 30 metres. And yet, Greg, we know that when it comes to the open class grade at the moment, it's so strong that even the best version of him runs second, third or fourth. He is an example of the depth we have around us at the moment. And another horse, Greg, who if we end up with a trotting slot race next year, he'd be ideal for someone to take as well. But very brave horse, and gee, these trotting races are throwing up great spectacles week in, week out when they're just below that best level, Greg. I think there's some superb turnover, efforts, some really good horses and some really outstanding trainers. And as you mentioned, one of those is Bob Butt, who's absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, he certainly is. Won 11 there for Midnight Dash. Kelly's Delight was one of 3 winners that Bob had last Saturday night. And gee, he had a night out at the office, didn't he? What a night.
Great night, mate, yeah. Especially good money was up, so it worked out great.
Got the first with Rage, a raging bull. So you're winning with, well, horses with size that aren't perhaps winning premierships.
Yeah, no, he's a nice horse. He's taken a bit of time, and but he got a nice run in front and worked out good.
Yeah, and himself, well placed tonight.
Yeah, big drop back from what he's been racing. Thought he'd be pretty hard to beat if he got a bit of luck, and worked out good that way, yeah.
Kelly's Delight, franking that Group 1 form she showed in February, one last week, one again tonight, and you got the Quinella to boot.
Yeah, no, great. They both went good. She's just a lovely wee mare, Kelly. She just can do a bit of work. She's got real fast, you know. She's just a real pleasure to have.
Bob, what do you do with her now, though? Where do you place her now, or is it more a case of, righto, we have to start thinking about, well, it's not the new season anymore, but the spring, I suppose?
Yeah, there's a 40k race in 3 weeks for them, so that'll be their big dance, and just see how she comes through from there, what the programs are. Like, she's getting on now, she probably doesn't need too big of a spell, so yeah, I'll just work it out.
Well, congrats on the way the team's going, mate. They're absolutely low flying.
No, thanks very much.
Yeah, we get to see those horses, Midnight Dash, Kelly's Delight and the Uncut Gems next month at Addington Raceway, those $40,000 features. Speaking of Addington, Thursday night, 8-race program. Here's a couple of decent chances for you. Sugar Me in front here. Here's some form for you, Michael. Getting through on the inside, Kelly's Delight, and outside, Sugar Me here, the Falcon.
Yeah, pretty nice horse, Sugar Me. I thought last season it was a decent horse, and they took it to Aussie. Things went off the rails a little bit, but you would suggest it's a horse much like the Falcon, who's going to work its way to open class. Just back to that Country Cups, Greg. Great concept. Loved everything about it. Loved the grand final for those type of horses. So well done to Harness Racing New Zealand's programming team for coming up with that. But yep, Sugar Me will be hard on Thursday night, Gregory. And here's Quick Shot, and aptly we should see on the outside here too, when we're looking at Quick Shot, Trixton Time in those colours of the now late Jim Delgetti.
Yeah, of course, Trixton Time will line up on Thursday night as well, taking on Quick Shot, who bolted in here for Jack Harrington and Blair Orange. Blair will actually drive Cocky Milk on Thursday night, and I reckon it'll be really hard to beat. And just back to that Dominion Trading Mobile Pace race number 5, Heisenberg will take all sorts of beating. Will be hard to beat for Sugar Me, but I reckon they're just about a lock Quinella there. All right, that's Addington Raceway on Thursday night. Short break for us on the other side. We'll wrap it all up for you as we build towards another big weekend in harness racing. Well, when your dad's a champion trainer like Brendan is, I suppose, Max, getting into the game was always a possibility.
Yeah, no, it was. I just remember being young and helping him, and then I left school pretty early and got into it with him, and then got sent down south, and I've just loved it ever since, you know.
Tell us about your time down there. So you started out with Tank Ellis and Kirsten Barclay, and then ultimately Kirsten on her own. How do you go with the cold mornings down there?
It was a bit cold. Some mornings the frost is going all the way to the beach, and that's a bit cold for me. But no, it's pretty good. I love it down there, and you know, I've had a lot of success with Kirsten and Tank, and they've been very good to me from the start, and I appreciate that.
Starting with your first ever winning drive. The Group 1 winning mare, Watch Me Now.
Yeah, that was something pretty special. Tank looked after me there, and of Kirsten as well, and the owners were great people, and be able to put me on, they knew she was something special, and you know, to be able to put me on and win on her was something pretty special for myself, and then to go on and see her to do what she has done.
What about driving wise? What are your aspirations? What are your goals? And given the success of your father as a trainer, is that something you'd like to do further down the track?
It is. I enjoy it. Like when Dad sends one down, or Kirsten's got a wee project or something, I really do enjoy it and trying new things and stuff like that. But at the moment, I'm really focusing on driving. I do love driving. Just always got to improve and stuff like that. It's just small things you've got to do right, and it will come. So.
I suppose driving horses like Watch Me Now, McAndrew Aviator, Tommy Waterhouse, you've won on that as well. That gives you a guide as to what you need in front of you to be able to win races.
Yeah, that's for sure. They're nice horses and they're doing great jobs down there, and pretty lucky to be able to drive those horses and to be winning on them, so pretty lucky.
Right. Half a dozen wins in the bank already. I'm sure there's plenty more to come. Thanks for stopping by and having a chat to us.
No, thank you very much.
So great to catch up with Max Hill there. Yes, half a dozen wins. I'm sure there's plenty more in store for that young man. Let's, with Garrards, go across the ditch. And Michael Guerin, what about the remarkable night had at Launceston by Australia's premier trainer in Emma Stewart?
And driver Mark Pitt. So for those who don't follow, they went down to Launceston for the Easter Cup, and this is them winning and actually quinelling the Easter Cup, Emma Stewart. But Emma Stewart and Mark Pitt had runners in 9 races. There was a race at Launceston they weren't able to have a runner in. It was restricted to inferior horses, and they combined to win all 9. So 9 of 10. So Emma trained, Mark drove. Now, yes, a lot of these horses will be $1.20 chances because Victorian horses are better than Tasmanian horses, Greg, but you still got to turn them up, you got to gear them up, you got to get them right, you got to make sure they're not sick, you got to make sure that there's some luck in the running, and Mark had to drive them to their strengths. Remarkable achievement. I doubt it's happened before. Maybe at a picnic meeting somewhere there's been something like this, but I couldn't find any records of it, Greg. So congratulations to Mark and to Emma. That may be a record that stands for a very, very long time.
Yeah, Longfellow by Bettor's Delight. Moving from that, we have great supporters here, as you know, on the box seat, and one of them is Stonewall Start. Here's another opportunity for you. What About Me by Lazarus out of Dreaming Spirers, who is the outstanding colt, this guy, a half-brother to the Group 1 winner, Hug the Wind. Gee, this is a strong family, Michael. Opportunity there. You can come in at 1% up to 5%, and then you have your fixed monthly costs, if it is 5%, $180. So get a hold of Jill Stockman. We really appreciate their strong support as per normal.
Wonderful looking horse. I saw him at the sales, and a lot of Lazarus in the body about him, Greg. If you want to know what's going on with Stonewall, obviously they're a very, very cheap place to go to syndication. I think basically Steve sort of half almost sponsors it in some way because they're so cheap to be involved in. Fantastic syndication base. Just go to their website. That's the place to go because there's horses like that who are slightly at the bigger end of the range, Greg, because he was such a good-looking colt down to all sorts of price levels. So, yeah, I saw him at the sales, Greg, and fair to say he was a little bit out of my league.
Yeah, well, if he's out of yours, you know he's out of mine. What about the hits and misses from last week? See you do it. You got that done for us, Michael, at Cambridge, and I think it opened about $2.50. Decent bet there on Self Assured and Cully's Delight. I stopped Romeo Shard, so I'll try and turn that around this week, and also Playfully getting beaten there. So they're the TAB hits and misses from last week. Of course, Addington raced not only on the Saturday night, but they raced on the Wednesday, including one of those misses in the last race there, Franco Yorick, $3,001.60. Race meetings ahead this week. Addington Raceway, the 8 races there on Thursday night. The kick-off just after 5:30. Auckland's massive Taylor Mile, looking forward to that. 10 races at 5:40. Geraldina on Sunday at 12:50. And on Monday, Ashburton, Anzac Day, they kick off about 1:30. Rakiro Racing sponsor our best bets. Invercargill race number 5, Right As for Jason Broad. What about for you, Michael Guerin?
I like a horse called Harder Than Diamonds in the last race at Alexandra Park. It's a pretty good horse. It's up against a good horse in Fernley Cash, but Harder Than Diamonds likes to run on the speed, and I think it's got a chance of getting most of these at the start, Greg. So just with Alexandra Park, it's the first time in a long time We're racing in orange light settings there, and you can come along and you can get a hospo table and you can enjoy the Taylor Mile. So for those people in the Auckland region, if we want to keep our racing at Alexandra Park, we've got to support it. The trainers are doing better this week, bigger fields, Greg. It's a chance for people to get along, because for the next 5 or 6 weeks, it's the main centre of not only New Zealand harness racing, but Australasian harness racing.
Yep, and we've got the best pacer and trotter in the land, Self-Assured and Sunday Sun. So there's no real excuse if you're a harness racing fan not to get along and have a look at the equine quality that will be at the park on Friday night. Next week we'll be in delay again in terms of public holidays, so we only record on Wednesday morning, play out Thursday, but you can always catch us on YouTube. Big thank you to our stable of sponsors once again. Michael, appreciate your input as always. Looking forward to the park Friday night, and both of us will see you in 7 days' time.